Shalom. Who is hunting your soul? Ezekiel 13. Lawlessness and the price of unexamined allegiance. Let me begin with a claim that may unsettle you. The greatest threat to your soul is not demons, darkness, or chaos. It is unexamined authority. Not violence, not ignorance, but certainty without truth. Today I want to take you to an ancient text, Ezekiel 13, 17 through 18, not because it's old, but because it is painfully modern. In this passage, Yah accuses religious leaders of hunting souls. That phrase alone has been abused, sensationalized, and misunderstood for centuries. So let's strip it of its superstition and fear and let the text speak. What does it mean to hunt souls? First, it is not mythology. This is not about demons stealing human essence. Ezekiel is confronting religious professionals, practitioners, and experts of the law, people who spoke for Yah, claiming spiritual insight, and wore the symbols of authority. And Yah says to them, you hunt souls like birds. You put to death those who should live and keep alive those who should die. This is not spiritual warfare fiction. This is spiritual malpractice. Soul hunting in Ezekiel is the exploitation of spiritual authority, declaring false condemnation, offering false peace, and using fear or comfort to control behavior. Profiting from vulnerability. And Yahweh is furious, not at the people being trapped, but at those doing the trapping. Notice what Yah does and doesn't say. Yah does not say, you own them. Nor does he say, you control their destiny. Instead, he says, I will tear off your devices, and I will let the souls go free. That line matters. It tells us something profound and dangerous to ignore. People were not owned, they were deceived. They were bound not by power, but by belief. How do you hunt a soul without touching the body? Here's where the text becomes uncomfortable. Ezekiel describes the ritual garments, symbols, worn on wrists and heads, markers of special access or insight. But Yah never explains how these objects worked. Why? Because the fabric was irrelevant. The function, however, was everything. You may ask, well, what were these rituals doing? They created fear, dependency, and false authority. In modern terms, they manufactured confidence. And confidence, when detached from the truth, is the most addictive drug we have. This is where lawlessness enters. Now recall everything we've discussed about lawlessness, anomia. Lawlessness is chaos. It is self-authorization. It is deciding I speak truth not because Yah said it, but because I said it in his name. And Messiah confronts this directly. He says, depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. Notice what he says before rejecting them. They prophesied, they healed, and they exercised power. But they resembled nothing of him. Which brings us to a principle that's founding everything today. You resemble what you serve. This is not a metaphor. Psalms 1:15 states it plainly. Those who trust in idols become like them. Or a more familiar one, you are what you eat. In Ezekiel, leaders who serve power become predators. Leaders who serve profit become extortioners. And leaders who serve control distort the truth. And the people, you may say, well, they began to resemble what they trusted. Silent, fearful, dependent, and spiritually numb, until Yah intervenes and says, enough. So who are the soul hunters today? Let's be clear. Soul hunters are not monsters. They are systems. They are any authority that depends and demands loyalty without accountability. Any voice that trades fear for obedience, any spiritual language that silences discernment, and communities where legitimate questions are a form of rebellion. Soul hunting does not look like possession. It's outsourced consciousness. It looks like people handing over their consciousness and calling it obedient faith. This is not a message of fear. It is a message of agency. Here is the most hopeful line in the entire passage. I will let the souls go free. Freedom is not achieved by stronger ritual, not by panic, not by obsession with darkness. Freedom comes from realigning with the truth. James says temptation begins not with demons, but with desire. Paul says transformation begins not with effort, but with focus. And Ezekiel shows us that Yah sides with the deceived, not the deceiver. If you take one thing from this message, take this. The soul is not hunted by force. It is captured by unexamined trust. And the moment you examine, the moment you question, and the moment you realign, the bands fall off, the veil tears, and Yah says, let them go. Selah.